I believe everyone deserves a quality self-defense education so they can live a life without having to be afraid. This is why I'm a martial arts educator and a school owner. And because life has thrown me a couple curveballs over the years, I had to start over. And I now have one student. I am so determined to make the martial arts my full-time career and part of my retirement. I'm Sensei Mish. Welcome to my journey. This wouldn't be a martial arts journey without talking about rank. Rank, I think, I'm torn. Bram Frank, my knife instructor, his big thing is skill is rank. And that's true, skill is rank, because when it really, truly comes down to it, rank is like, if you're a 10th degree black belt or 11th degree black belt and you really don't know your shit, you get out onto the street and you fight somebody, you're done. Like, if you've just been doing kata without knowing any applications to the self-defense, and you don't know pressure points and you don't know sparring, you're just, I got my black belt off the internet, which that's no digs because a lot of people are virtually training now, but you get what I'm saying. If you're just a bookworm and you don't have any practical hands-on experience, rank doesn't mean diddly. And Jesse Ankamp, the karate nerd, he actually, I love the fact, now I've never been to any of his karate nerd experience camps, but he gives out pink belts to everybody because he doesn't really care what somebody's rank is. It's just everybody getting together and doing karate. And that is awesome. With Bram Frank, his modular system, he doesn't give out rank. He does give out instructor certificates because it's really an instructor-based art. And just recently, we've started giving out user certificates because, people do need that type of accomplishment. They need that piece of paper or that physical, tangible, colorful belt to put around their waist to say, yes, I accomplished something. Now, I've been in the martial arts for 30 years. Yes, in the beginning, oh yeah, I wanted that next degree. I wanted that next belt and I wanted that next degree, and that really meant something. And now, I'm a 5th degree black belt in Ruku Kempo. My last certificate says, December 2013. So that was 7 years ago. But I'd like a 6th degree, but it's not like my life isn't depending on it, Because honestly, when people are coming through the school, knocking on your door for the school, they don't care. They could care less what your belt rank is. Very few times I've actually been asked where I'm ranked, because honestly, it really doesn't matter. Okay. I think being recognized within your group is helpful, but it is what it is. But when it comes to having a commercial school, it is important. So you have those students who come in, they want to get to black belt, but very few of them are like hardcore and want to make it their life. Now, some they've got some screws loose. Me, I've been wanting to do this all my life. Parents didn't let me, that's why I started at 18. But then you've got the other people where, they're like, I don't know. And then they get bit and they're there for life. And then there's others that just want to get that black belt. But there's those few who they do it for whatever reason, but they require that acknowledgement. So that's why we have belts. And we also have belts basically to say, hey, that person is at this skill level, and it kind of allows us to kind of group our, especially for students, younger students, group people based on skill. So you're able to teach age appropriate and skill appropriate things. And so, and like for me, that's where I'm torn again. Like for me, I am that lifetime guy. And honestly, I would just do like, of course everybody starts at white, but I do like white, green, brown, and black. And then maybe, all the other ones. But I can't do that. So, I know, I'm talking too much, but I'll talk some more. So, when I started, and actually, let's go back, give you a little bit of history on belt ranking, because back in the day, people didn't just get rank. They were either given a certificate or some type of scroll or something like that. In fact, they didn't even wear karate gi or judo gi or whatever like we wear today. So it was all started by Jigoro Kano. Please don't butcher me if I butchered that name. I seriously apologize. He is the founder of judo. Back in 1886, I think, is when he first awarded black belts to his senior students, or at least the ones that he had issued Shodan and Nidan ranks to. So he basically separated it between white and black. And then because Gichin Funakoshi, the father of modern karate, he wanted the Japanese to recognize karate as a more established martial art. So he, in turn, did the same thing. And I think it was April of 1934, no, 24, April of 1924, he issued 7 black belts to his senior students. But the color belt ranks really didn't, or the lower level ranks, those didn't really come about until about 1935. There was a judo instructor who was teaching in Paris, don't know his name. He actually started awarding color belt ranks to his lower belt ranks because he felt that students in the West they appreciated more getting smaller recognitions along the way, some type of visual and tangible recognitions, and was basically doing it based on skill level. And that is exactly how all of that is being used today. So that really hasn't changed. Now, when it comes to the color of the belts, it's kind of, there's a standard, but there isn't a standard. You generally have yellow or gold, you have an orange. And this really, it all depends on the organization, the school, but then you throw in a green, a blue, a purple, a brown. The Koreans do red, but I'll get into that in a second. And then you have black belt. And then, based on the different styles, you either have, little stripes on your belt for each degree. And when you get to a certain degree, you might have a big stripe. Where I come from, the Ruku Kempo side, the first 3 degrees are just solid black. Second and third could have the stripe on it. In my school, I don't do that. It's just solid, first, second, and third. Fourth, fifth, and sixth, those are considered master ranks. That has the black on the outside, the red on the inside. And then 7, 8, and 9, you have, you have the red on the outside and the black on the inside. And then 10th degree is solid red. So that's kind of where red comes into it in the Okinawan karate and others, Japanese, non-Japanese styles, except for Korea. But I'll get into that in a little bit. Now, the thing is that that's kind of a reality-based, best to my knowledge, of how everything happened from the research that I did. As an impressionable young student, I was told, and please let me know, basically if my history is wrong, or if you've heard this next story, that the reason that white belts are colorful between white and black is because students of the old age, they put on that white belt and they would train, and the belt would get sweat stained and soil stained and grass stained, and they would just get dirty and it eventually turning to black. And that's where the colors came from. No. Hey, guess what? That story is bullshit. You know what else is BS? When you get to black, you have to register your fist because you're a deadly weapon. Yeah. If any teacher tells you that, they're full of shit and leave their school. Anyway, so yeah, great stories, not true. I tell them as jokes because, again, they're not true. Now, when it comes to, let's get into the whole color red as a lower belt for the Koreans. Now, I started in Taekwondo, like many people, and red was kind of, it came right before brown belt. Now, I was told, and I buy this story before I buy the other stories, but I was told that the reason that the red belt was in the Korean styles, specifically Taekwondo, was that back in the day, Japan occupied Korea. There's tension between those two countries. Okay, so when back in the 30s and 40s, when Taekwondo was really kind of being created, when the start of it was being created, I might have my exact dates wrong. Don't crucify me for it. But when General Che came back from Japan and came back with the black belt in Shotokan, added kicks, all that kind of stuff, when they were formulating all of that and created the color belt for the lower belts, they added red as kind of sticking it to the Japanese because, of course, what do you have? You have this young Taekwondo student who's studying a Korean art and being like, ooh, red belt is below black? But what about that Japanese grandmaster who's wearing red? Does he not know enough to get to black belt? So symbolism, sticking it to the Japanese, you go Korea, I love it. Now, that's what I was told. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. If you know different, please put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear any feedback on that. So, but again, I would believe that story before I believe the whole story of the belt getting dirty. I mean, symbolism, real or imagined, great. Okay, so moving on to what I'm doing now. Now, well, or at least what I've done. I have had, again, I've always been conflicted about ranks and should I do it? How should I do it? So I've done a number of different things. I've done just solid belts. I've done solid belts, a combination of solid belts with stripes. I've done solid belts for the adults and solids and stripes for the juniors. I've done a younglings class, which is 5 and 6 year olds with white belts with colored stripes that based on I've done a bunch of different things. So rebuilding my curriculum, I took the course that Brandon Beliso, Professor Brandon Beliso taught. It's called Rotating Curriculum 6.0. I'll put a link in the comments or in the blurb below. It was fantastic. I didn't have to be sold on it. I knew it would work. I just didn't know how to apply it to what I had. And I had just this curriculum, just your standard old curriculum, stuff you need for yellow belt, stuff you need for orange belt, so on and so forth. So I take that, and it's always been taking about 4 to 4.5, 5 years to get to black belt for me. So I looked at all my curriculum. I came up, it's like, okay, well, here's 4 years and potentially a little bit more, but let's stick with the 4 years with some gray area on the end. And using Professor's formula, I ended up with 3 belts times 4 years. That's 12 belts, not counting white or black. So yeah, that's a lot of belts. Now, when it came to the color scheme, I kind of stuck with what I have been doing forever. You have your standard yellow, you have your standard orange. What I do differently, though, which kind of has screwed people up, is I separated blue and purple and I put green in the middle. So I do orange or yellow, orange, blue, green, purple, brown, and then black. So I had these 6 core colors but what was I gonna do in between? So let me show you. This is my vision board. A board wrapped in, yeah, anyway, bad joke. So part of what I was doing is I did I got on Century because back in the day, I was kind of doing the whole, stripe with a brown belt and what would be different, because I do like to be a little bit different, if you didn't know that. So they offer these really awesome belts that are in half colors. So one color on top, one color on the bottom. And I thought that was pretty cool. So based on my color scheme and how everything I wanted to do, I looked at what they offered and then chose. So I ended up with this. So everybody starts with a white belt. So year one is broken up into 3 belts. So our first 3 belts is 1, 2, 3. So I've got a half yellow, half white with yellow worn on top. And then you've got yellow and orange, solid colors. Year 2, I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got a solid blue, I've got a green on top, blue on bottom, and then a solid green. Year 3, I ended up with a purple and a green, so purple worn on top, a solid purple, and then a half brown, half purple with brown on top. Year 4, I ended up with a solid brown and then a half black, half brown with black worn on top, and our provisional black belt, which is black on top, or black on bottom, white on top. So one of the things where I kind of get into that gray area is from here to here, this belt right here, it's 4 years. So that's 48 months of training. You've got your white belt, which is our beginner program. That, I don't know, it takes 4 months. It could take 6 weeks. Depends on how much the person picks up stuff. It's a pretty simplistic program, okay? But then we get to here. So if they took the 4 full months, getting up to passing this, getting ready for their full black, would be 52 months. Okay, 52 months. But with provisional black belt, I adopted Professor Dan Anderson's concept of once they get provisional, then they can choose when they test. There isn't a set test date. So they could choose, so here they have the choice of, for the next 4 months, they train and they practice and they finish their Shodan report and then they test. But if after 4 months, they're like, I'm really not ready. I don't feel confident. I don't think I'm ready. Now I could call BS on that and be like, no, you're testing. Or they could just be like, yeah, I'm good to go. Or no, I need 2 more months, whatever. So that's the conversation that we have there. And then of course, black belt. Now, when I'm continuing the black belt, all the different levels for what I'm used to in Ruku Kempo. So that's really not that, but this is the ranking system that I do in my school. I'm glad you hung out this long. If you actually hung out this long for this video to watch the entire thing, because I know with editing, we're probably around the 18-minute mark or so. But if you have, and you have not shared it or liked it or subscribed, please do so. I really appreciate it. And until our next step in the journey, I'll see you on the next video.